Oh, hi, Gina.
Hi, Jess. I am so glad you chose to come to Gonzaga.
Ah, me too. Thanks for agreeing to take me around today.
Oh, not to worry. It's my pleasure. How was your first day of classes?
Oh, it was super. I kept hearing about this thing called Ferpa.
Oh, yes. Ferpa is a very important part of legislation that protects students' records.
Student records? Mm-hmm. Gina, you have to tell me more. I have no idea what Ferpa is.
Okay, well, let's start with what Ferpa stands for.
Perfect.
Do you know what Ferpa is?
Oh.
Ferpa?
Ferpa.
No.
Do I know what Ferpa? No.
What? No. No idea? Not at all. What is it?
Feed elephants rationed
One more.
peanuts
One more.
all day.
There you go.
Gina, Ferpa's not about peanuts, is it?
No, it isn't. FERPA stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It's a federal law, and it's designed to protect the privacy of our student education record and governs how institutions like Gonzaga protect your records.
So, because I'm a student, I have certain rights regarding my student record.
Yes, and at Gonzaga, all students' education records are covered by the law at all student levels and on all campuses. This includes the education records of students on our Florence campus, students in our graduate cohort programs, and students in any of our online classes.
When do my records become protected by Ferpa?
Once you begin attending class. According to FERPA, students are defined as people who are or have been in attendance at an institution.
So, as of today, my student records are protected by Ferpa. When are my records no longer protected, Gina?
Never, Jess. Your records are now protected until you die.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned that I have some rights that are outlined by Ferpa.
That's right. Let's go see my friend Caroline. She's a FERPA expert. Come on.
Students have the right to inspect and review their education record, request an amendment to a record that the student believes is inaccurate or misleading or violates his or her privacy rights, to give consent to the university to disclose personally identifiable information, to know what Gonzaga has designated as public or directory information, and the student may decide to withhold said information. To know that school officials may have access to an education record, and to know the criteria used to determine the school official's legitimate need to know the information. If a request for an amendment to a record is deemed unsatisfactory to the student, they may have a hearing. And finally, students have the right to file a complaint with the Department of Education concerning an alleged failure by the university to comply with FERPA.
Okay, that was a lot of information. I have a few questions about all of the terminology. First of all, what goes into an education record?
Any record linked to a student and containing personally identifiable information such as an ID number or a social security number and maintained in a format by the university is considered an education record and is covered by FERPA. This includes any records such as your SAT and ACT scores, your grades, and any transcript records. The information can be held in any medium, including that which is handwritten, typed, filmed, or electronic.
Does it include all of the records I accumulate during my time at Gonzaga?
No, some records are not covered. Caroline?
FERPA does not cover alumni records, medical records through the health center or counseling center, or employment records that are not contingent upon being a student, like graduate and work-study students.
Thanks, Caroline. All right, Jess. So FERPA also doesn't cover things like law enforcement records or any sole possession notes written by a staff or faculty member not accessible or revealed to any other person.
Good to know. Caroline mentioned something about non-confidential or directory information. What is that?
Let's go find out. So Jess, directory information is non-confidential information that can be disclosed without the student's written consent. But Gonzaga has taken careful consideration to make sure none of this information is by any means harmful or an invasion of privacy. So typically this directory information is something you would find in a student directory or an event program, such as a student's name, their address, their phone number, their year in school, their major field of study, you know, things like that.
Ah, all right, so that's why they can show players height and weight at basketball games.
Exactly. Go Zags! Jess, you should also know that you have the right to restrict access to directory information by filling out a form in the registrar's office.
Oh, cool. What does it look like?
This. If you restrict your directory information, your student record and banner and ZagWeb will reflect a confidential notation. Staff and faculty should respond to any requests for directory information from such a record with the response of, "I have no information on that student."
What is considered non-directory information?
Well, Jess, non-directory information includes things like class schedules, grades, GPA, social security numbers, student ID numbers, unofficial and official transcripts, and degree evaluations.
So unlike directory information, all of this information is confidential.
Yes, although you may give your written consent to someone giving them access to your records.
I bet I do that with a form in the registrar's office that looks like this.
Correct. You should know that there are some circumstances under which Gonzaga can release this information without your consent.
An emergency situation would probably fit into that description.
Yes, but there are more circumstances as well.
I bet Caroline knows all of them.
She sure does.
Hello again. According to law, Gonzaga may disclose education records without the express written consent of the student, to anyone with prior consent from the student, to anyone in response to a request for directory information unless a restriction exists, to a school official with a legitimate educational interest, to officials of an institution where a student is transferring, to respond to a court order or subpoena, to respond to a health or safety emergency, to an employer or agency providing financial aid to the student, though some additional conditions exist, to define governmental agencies, to the parents of a student younger than 21 who has violated Gonzaga's alcohol or drug policy, to agents contracted to act on behalf of the university, to an alleged victim of a violent crime when the disclosure is the result of a disciplinary hearing, to anyone requesting final results of a disciplinary hearing against an alleged perpetrator found in violation of campus code relating to a crime of violence or non-forcible sex offense, to anyone when the disclosure concerns information provided by registered sex offenders, and finally, to military recruiters. Oh, and don't forget that parents can gain access to the education record of their student only when a signed consent form is submitted by the student to the registrar's office, or if a parent or guardian can prove financial dependency by providing a copy of their most recent income tax form.
Under Ferpa, once you turn 18 or start attending a post-secondary institution like Gonzaga, all of your rights are transferred solely to you, and your parents become a third party.
Oh, cool, that makes sense. But Caroline also mentioned school officials and legitimate educational interests. So who counts as a school official and what's a legitimate educational interest?
Okay, well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, just in case someone is secretly recording our conversations. Okay, let's start with a school official. A school official isn't just the faculty and staff at Gonzaga. It can also be anyone hired on a contractual or temporary basis to perform a special function for the university.
So a university official can be anyone hired by the university, temporarily or permanently. And this includes student workers?
Correct.
Just because someone's a university official doesn't mean that it can just access records whenever they want to, right?
Exactly. That's where legitimate educational interest comes in.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Ferpa says that with legitimate educational interest, anyone wanting to access your records must have a legitimate need to know.
An additional question about grades. Would it be a violation of Ferpa to post grades online or in a public forum?
Oh, yes, definitely. It is forbidden to publish grades in any medium if they are tied to information they could identify a student with, especially the student's name, their ID number, or social security number.
So by Ferpa, a school official has a legal responsibility to protect the confidential information of students.
That's right. Like anytime I walk into a professor's office, they're always minimizing the screens on their computers or covering up any graded papers.
Gina, how do you know so much about Ferpa?
Being a work study in the registrar's office didn't hurt, but every year students are notified of their rights both in the university catalog and in an email sent out by the registrar's office. You can also contact anyone in the registrar's office or the Department of Education if you have any questions.
I will definitely take advantage of those things if I have any questions. Thanks, Gina.
My pleasure, Jess. You want to go get a coffee or something?
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.